Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with you stupid website. Yahoo News from the Los Angeles Times. Letters to the editor. Republicans call us socialists. We just care about other Americans. Oh, do you? So these are a bunch of letters from people discussing socialism and conservatism, I guess you would say. To the editor, the statement, socialism is when the government actually owns the means of production, is far too reductive to the point of potentially reinforcing fears from the right of creeping socialism. Talk about a straw man. Um, you know, that is not. I don't know of Republicans who say that. What they say is socialism doesn't work. I mean, you're trying to argue that socialism works. I assume the fact that it's creeping is known. Because what other solution do socialists have for anything? What other solution do they have? Here's a solution a socialist never says. Well, that's not the government's problem. They don't say that. They say, oh, well, here's a government program, or here's a task force, or we'll look into that. There is no problem under the sun that you can bring to people who are socialist or socialist leaning that they won't go, aha, that's a problem, especially politicians, because it's worth their time to solve your problem, or at least appear to solve it, especially if you somehow get at them and confront them in a public forum. So, I mean, can you imagine someone in a town hall asking a Democratic socialist, hey, I really think there's too much snow on our highways during the winter. I mean, what do you think we should do about that? And, the person in the town hall going, well, I'm sure it's being taken care of. I mean, you got public works, right? No. They say, well, if it's just too much snow, yes, I agree. I agree there's too much snow. There's way too much snow, and I'm looking into it to get more people out there. Continuing with this letter, as stated by the Oxford Lexico, really? Why don't you just use Webster's dictionary? The definition of socialism is this: a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Yeah, but the de facto runner becomes the government because they're big enough to do it. And the only way you can force people into socialism is to use the government to force them. That's the only way. Now, sometimes the means of production, the commune, if you will, comes together on its own. It's rare, but it happens. And it happens for a while, and then it tends to die off because, you need X amount of people to sustain it, but not too many people that it's overburdened, and not too few people that you can't sustain it. So you're free to do that under a liberal society. Liberalism meaning not liberal, but liberalism in general. So no one's stopping you from starting a hotel business in which the maids and the front desk people and everybody who works there owns a piece of the pie, and you run it, and everybody gets an equal share or whatever share. No one's stopping you. The problem is the people who would run it would be working themselves to death trying to sustain it and getting slightly more money than the maids. And when you do that, you go, this sucks. Why am I doing all this work? The maid goes home at 4. I'm here to 10 o'clock at night every night killing myself. And I only get slightly more money. I'm salaried and I'm working overtime. She's hourly and gets all these benefits. That's the problem. If you've ever been in charge, you'd know that. But democratic socialists in general, they've never been in charge of anything. It's too hard. It's too hard. Which is why they want a handout. Continuing, the term socialism is a big tent that covers a wide range of political, economic, social positions, virtually all of which necessarily imply an opposition to the complete unregulated workings of the free market. Well, that's just wrong. No. Show me, what the hell are you talking about? It's a big tent that covers a wide range of political, economic, social positions? No, it doesn't. I mean, depending on your definition of big tent, I guess. I mean, if you're going to say democratic socialist and regular socialist and, libertarian socialist or whatever socialist, I guess you can call that a big tent, but it's all basically the same. Democratic socialism is part of the overreaching definition that is the aspiration of most U.S. centrist liberals, progressives, and whatever other label is currently fashionable to describe those who care about the welfare of Americans. No, it isn't. That is not true. U.S. centrists are not for socialism. That has been more than apparent if you look at the polls regarding Bernie Sanders during his run. Liberals and progressives, not so much liberals. I mean, you definitely have neoliberals in that mix. Progressives, somewhat, but even some progressives don't want socialism or democratic socialism. Have you seen the DSA's meeting video? I mean, if you haven't Googled that video, you could see what the DSA is like. It's just a group of people who get bogged down into details and they can't even get out the door. Then there's a letter from a conservative saying that she's sick of being called fascist by Democrats. Yeah, and they call a lot of other people fascist too. It's ridiculous. I'm going to skip that one though. This one, Abkarian quotes the late Senator George McGovern, who said liberals were behind every social program that has benefited the public. Really? I don't think that's true. And I think that is, again, what about the Republicans who voted for some of this stuff? Are they not behind some of these programs? She might want to mention the piece he wrote for Wall Street in 1992, commenting on the role of government regulation played in the bankruptcy of his business. After he retired from the Senate, McGovern bought a Connecticut hotel and restaurant. He wrote that federal, state, and local rules, quote, that were designed to help workers protect the environment, raise taxes for schools, had raised costs to his business beyond what he could recover from increasing prices. There you go. What good do the socialists do if they put such onerous regulations on businesses that they can't compete anymore? This hotel and restaurant went out of business, and this was Senator McGovern's, ex-Senator McGovern's business. He had pull. He wasn't without pull. So, what does that tell you? I know, Joan. Joan is outraged. Abakarian is correct in that socialism has been defined as government ownership of the means of production, but the economy can also be controlled via regulation and monopoly buying power. The Department of Defense is a current example of single-payer health care. Would be another. Joan, be quiet. So, that's the problem too. Once you regulate things to death, the de facto controller is the government. Because you can't make a move without them. You can't open a business without their permission. There is no free market with this much onerous regulation. Joan's very upset. And then here's the big smear at the end of this. To the editor, another apt, memorable comment regarding the labeling of socialism came quite a few years ago when George Wallace, the former governor of Alabama, was campaigning for president. He traveled around the country railing against the menace of creeping socialism. However, some observers, citing the large number of federal projects in his home state, rightly reserved, yes, Wallace is against creeping socialism until it comes to creeping in Alabama. Ha 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 ha. Oh, so smart. I am so smart. He didn't really have a choice about a lot of the programs that were foisted upon his state. So, and, you know, dragging up George Wallace just to make your argument. Oh, see, you're like George Wallace if you agree socialism is creeping socialism. So, typical media stuff, right? Let's just smear everybody against socialism. Obviously, there's something wrong with them. They're like George Wallace. These people don't fight fair. And they think it's okay that we don't fight fair. See, because socialism's going to help everybody. We're good people that want to help people. See, everybody who doesn't like socialism, they're bad people. They don't want to help people. Tell me, what's stopping you helpful socialists from going out and helping people? What's stopping you from volunteering in a soup kitchen or donating money to charity or starting a program of your own? What's stopping you? Nothing. Now, what will stop you in the future is that the government will tax you so much that you won't have any extra income or time to do that kind of thing. But you'll be able to sit in your crumbling home and, think to yourself, well, I'm so glad we have socialism, even though I'm very cold. You know, everybody gets a little bit now. This is virtue signaling brought to the level of government. Socialist, I haven't seen one yet that's done anything good. Where are these socialists who run massive charities or businesses that are run like a co-op and pay hundreds of people? I don't see it. Where are these socialists? Bernie Sanders, Mr. Socialist, has multiple mansions. Where are the hippies living in his mansion while he's away, you know, giving homeless people a home when he's not using it? Oh, I guess he doesn't have time to do that, huh? He doesn't have time as a senator with millions of dollars to, you know, hire a guy to do that with a living wage, mind you, and full benefits and paid vacations and whatnot. Remember what he did on his campaign? when he couldn't pay people enough on his campaign, so he cut their hours back? Remember that? Socialists are like Democrats, or do I repeat myself? They're hypocrites. Because the math just doesn't work out. It just doesn't work out. You want to pay somebody who works in a minimum wage job. First off, minimum wage is a mess too, but you want to pay someone in a minimum wage job so they could have enough money to buy a house and raise a family. You're insane. Things would go through the roof. The way that can work is like this. With a free market, with low taxes, with the ability to open businesses, people can thrive and prices go down because of competition. The problem with giving everybody a house is not giving them more money. It's driving the prices of houses to make the houses and real estate competitive enough that they just lower the prices. Same thing with food and clothes and everything else. Competition lowers everything. Right now, what we're seeing is the crushing of small businesses that compete, that help lower prices. We're seeing the centralization in these big box stores, and socialists cheer it on. Democrats cheer it on. Yay, lockdowns! They don't understand math. They never have. They don't understand economics. Put any of these people in charge of a company, right down the tubes, in my opinion. Oh, they might pay everybody and be nice people, but they'll break themselves because they'll end up, you know, when you run a business, you can't run it with your heart. You have to run it with your head. The head has to be in charge. Reason, logic, money, math. Socialists just, we want to help everybody. Mommy wants to help you. Unfortunately, as I've said, Mommy wants to help you to death.